User activity. This is really important. A lot of times we have customers that maybe they didn't know what they did, but we can find out what actions took place. So I could see here that on this day, on 10/20, DNS settings were applied, that the NICs in the state were being applied to on and off. I see that a target was created. So here I can find out that on 10/20 of this month that the target was created, and I can see a target was removed. So this tells us a lot about the actions of the human interactions that was done to DSS V6 on the GUI side. So this can basically help you. Mirrored server, I can see that the volume replication was set up with a mirrored server. So you can correlate these dates and times through the logs for the task logs and things of this nature, and the DRBD config files that basically go over, okay, they set the 99.9945.249 IP address, maybe they didn't connect, so let's look at the NICs on the secondary system. So that's the user activity logs that provide information on that. The other logs that you're going to see, domain, the domain history log. This tells us, okay, did we join the open.e.local ADS server? And it looks like we did. And of course, there's more of that information. And then we talked about data replication. Data replication you could see in the rsync log, because we are using rsync. Here are the errors that would basically present themselves. So my destination server looks like it was offline when the task was running. So it could not find it, or it had a problem looking up the name. I had an interesting case today that I want to bring up to everybody. I had a customer that had some issues, and here's his set of logs. He had some performance issues, and also NAS shares were not showing up. So typically, when we start looking at, let's start looking at some of the errors that we're seeing. Three-where, here we go. Oh, let me go to the notice directory. Here we go. All right. So what happened here was he was not only having a performance issue, but shares were dropping. So one of the first things, what do we do? Well, obviously I'm not seeing any issues with critical errors. So that's telling me there might be something else happening. So if it's not coming up, where could it possibly be? So we didn't know what kind of array controller it has, because we do like to have a lot of information, but a lot of times engineers just don't have time to give it to us, and we have to spend extra time to review and find the logs. So we started looking back into this and looked at the dmessage logs. And let's look at the array controller. Let's find out what type of array controller he has. So here we see that he's using a three-way array controller. It's a 9690 SA version. Okay, so he has the right cache enabled. So let's go down and see if there's any other issues that we can find. Okay, he's using a QLogic fiber channel HBA. And there's no errors coming from that, so we look okay there. Now why are we getting ETH1 and ETH2 down? And 3. And look at this. Now we see something else. The QLogic cable is unplugged. Could have been maybe he's not needing it, or some other issue. So the NICs are down, cables are plugged, but he's still getting a performance issue. So let's look at some other things that can help us out. Well, look at here on the bottom. Looks like there's some migration going on. So let's investigate further. This is a file that comes with the three-way array controller that we're able to extract from and we get information from. is TW_management log. Now there is another log set files from 3ware. If you look here, TDM. Now when you go into the 3ware array controller, you do see that it's a TDM. You'll see the same kind of files that are being downloaded. And that's in a TXT file. So if we keep scrolling down, there's no other array controller information. So it looks like there was a migration going on. It starts, and then it's paused, and then it starts again. If we look at the date, 2010, month, October is 10, on the 26th. And it looked like it was 8:40 a.m., 26 seconds. So that's how you read the 3ware array controller logs. So let's look at that log, the management log. So we see everything is successful. So possibly the issue was that the NICs were going up and down. Maybe there's some packet loss. So let's take an investigation look. Let's look at the performance. Performance is still really slow here. Only 22. Look at that, 22.45 megabytes per second. But yet, the USB DOM is just almost as fast. So he's running at USB speeds or like a floppy drive. CPU, it's not pegged that much, so he's not hurting that much there on that end. Oh, let's take a look at the RAM. RAM is fine. So memory is good. Now, if anyone has some hints, come on and chime on in. If you know some information, this helps us because that way you guys I can make sure that you're learning on this. Well, let's say there was a question, could it possibly be, if it's an NFS issue, why are we looking at the QLogic? Well, maybe the QLogic is set up, and maybe he has two volume groups. Maybe he's using the QLogic fiber channel HBA as an initiator connecting to an external fiber channel storage unit. There are cases that they do that. But from deducing from the logs, we only see that there's only one volume group. But we have to take note of everything. So we can't just, so many times we'll just focus on one thing when it could actually be something else. So here that we see the next, well, look at that. What do you all see here? Anyone guess? ETH2, ETH1 is running at what speed? 10 megabits. Correct. Kiran, you won. You got the one at my vote. So we're seeing ETH1, ETH2, and ETH3 running at 10 megabits. So his performance at best is going to be maybe he'll probably get 4 megabytes per second. So yes, with many people accessing it, absolutely. He could be down to in the kilobyte range if somebody were to impact the system that much. So that explains pretty much on reviewing the logs and kind of troubleshooting and researching where and how to understand and navigate around the logs. And if there's any other questions, because we can continue this for, I want to bring up one more thing. A lot of times we look at this, the IETD, which is we still need to rename it, but it's called the iSCSI Enterprise Target, Damon. If we look at this, this tells us information about the target. So I can find out and match the SCSI ID. Let's say you have a VMware server. It's the initiator. I am investigating what sessions are being done. So here I can verify the SCSI ID. Are you using block IO mode? Are you using write through or write back?